This is The Drive with Dale Lolley and Matt Williamson on your 24/7 home of the black and gold. SNR, Steelers Nation Radio.
And welcome to The Drive. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson, except no imitations. And it is, well, happy Christmas Eve.
Yeah, happy Christmas Eve to all. Happy holidays and happy game day Eve.
I was thinking about this on my drive here today. When did Christmas Eve become a holiday as well?
I've always wondered that. Like Halloween Eve doesn't get any credit.
No.
You know,
Easter Eve.
Right. You know,
Thanksgiving Eve.
right.
No,
3rd of July.
Now that people get this day off like it's the holiday itself.
Guess it's a big one.
Christmas is such a big holiday. You get 2 days off unless you're the NFL.
Unless you're us. Yeah,
And
right. Here we are. We're not off one bit right now.
Not one bit. And, game day tomorrow, I'll probably put about 14 hours in on Christmas.
I got plenty to do the rest of the day, too.
My wife asked me, what do you want for Christmas dinner? I said, you make whatever you want because I'm not going to be here.
I was cold leftovers at midnight or something, yeah.
She's like, well, what time are you leaving? I'm like, I got to leave the house at like 7:45. Thankfully, my kids are all grown now, so I don't have to,
Yeah. Well, we're having a house full of people that are all excited to watch the game with Matt. But Matt's going to be up in his bedroom with the door shut with the laptop.
Taking notes.
Yeah, the wife didn't. What do you mean? I'm like, I kind of have to pay attention to this. I can't have my lovely Aunt Judy or Uncle Ken
What they run that for?
Just going, this guy's no. That's not how we're doing it.
That's not how this works. No.
She was also thrilled to hear that Week 17 has a game on Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Pretty good slate.
And we also don't even know what the schedule is for Week 18.
True.
Like
I like that they do that, though.
I do believe, however, that the Steelers are going to end up being at 1 o'clock. This is just my thoughts on this. They'll be at 1 o'clock on Sunday, playing at the same time as the Ravens.
Okay. They're smart about how they do that. Like Tom was talking about it a little bit last night on a night show I did with him. He was like, assuming they win or still in it, you're definitely going to have like Miami, Indy, and Cincy all playing at the same time.
Right.
So it's not like, they eliminated me, I'm out, I'll pull Joe Burrow.
Looking at maybe a standalone game might be a win and in situation. Like maybe Tampa Bay.
I would say like NFC South maybe.
Yeah, something like that. I would think.
Vikings-Lions? Is that Week 18?
Yes.
That could be for all the marbles. I couldn't remember if that was this week.
Yeah, that could be for the. And that one's interesting because the Vikings play the Green Bay this week. Green Bay destroyed.
Yeah, I mean they were actually resting guys at halftime.
The ghost of the Saints.
Yeah.
So that game.
Could a short week for Green Bay, but not as bad as the usual short week.
If Minnesota wins that game and Detroit wins, where are they at then next week?
I think it's for all the marbles in the North then. I know if Minnesota wins out, they win the North because they have the Lions on the schedule.
I'm just trying to find where was week 18, the Week 18 schedule. So if Detroit wins this week and Minnesota wins this week, that's for the
number one seed and the division. Yeah.
So you got Minnesota at Detroit. That would make a lot of sense to put that one on
As
Saturday.
A Sunday night. Or Saturday.
Yeah.
Okay.
They don't play a Sunday night game.
Okay. Is there a Monday night game then?
No. Or maybe they do. They do play a Sunday.
Not an 18.
They play a Sunday night game. They don't play a Monday night game. That's
right. Because some teams could have a short week for the
playoffs. That one could be the Sunday night game. I'm just looking here at what else could be on a standalone game on Saturday that would mean something. Kansas City, Denver.
So Week 18, there are Saturday games?
Well, no, Kansas City, if the Steelers...
That could eliminate Denver possibly, though.
If the Steelers beat Kansas City this week, then Denver, Kansas City could be for the number one seed in the AFC. If Cincinnati beats Denver this week, that could be for a playoff spot.
It could be an elimination game for Denver.
Yeah.
But then you'd also, I'm sure the networks don't want Mahomes, Chris Jones, Kelsey all sitting out.
Well, if the Steelers win this week, then that game's very meaningful for Kansas City. Just looking here, Chicago, Green Bay. Green Bay's already in.
Yeah, and they can't win the division.
There aren't a lot of Seattle, L.A.
That could matter.
That could be for the division title.
Loser leave town match.
Yeah, that could be for a division title. So there are some other games that I think could be some standalones in those other windows. Buffalo, New England again, no.
No, right.
Miami, New York, Maybe, but
Eagles
they're
are
going to
playing
put
a
that
bad
at the
team.
same time as all the other AFC wildcard playoff games.
Mm-hmm. You could stagger the NFC South, though, that one of them plays, and if they win, then the other one has to try. But then if it doesn't go your way, then
I think the one that
game.
makes the most sense is Seattle, LA.
Yeah, that one.
Or Detroit
and the Vikes, yeah.
Vikings.
Yeah, I would say so.
In Detroit,
Steelers-Cincy could mean something.
yeah, but it would mean something only if the other teams win.
Right, you need a lot
So
to
you need all
happen.
those teams to play
Right,
at the
right,
same
right.
time. You don't want
When do they have to make this decision?
I think by Friday.
By this Friday.
Yeah.
Okay, I would say there's a lot of travel and logistics and stuff
Right,
to it.
right. So I believe, and again, I'm just guessing on this, that the Steelers will be at 1 o'clock on Sunday,
Okay.
regardless of what happens
Makes sense.
this week.
Yeah. Home game, obviously.
Because they'll want Miami, Cincinnati, and Denver all playing at the same time.
Maybe Indy, too.
Or Indy as
Yeah,
well. Yeah. Just to know, so nobody rests it. Nobody
That's
says,
the whole
this
thing.
game
You don't
doesn't
be like,
mean anything.
yeah, you're sitting there scoreboard watching.
So there's a
What they're trying to
couple
avoid.
meaningful games
Yeah.
upcoming, assuming teams win this week.
I'd say this week's got a pretty decent slate, too.
Yeah.
And there are a
So,
lot of standalone games, as you'd imagine, with 5 days of the week being games.
but the game at hand for us is Pittsburgh and Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
And we got to start really diving into that one. Just looking at this as a whole here, and I kind of laid this out in my story on Steelers.com today. This will be the 6th time that Russell Wilson has faced a Steve Spagnuolo defense.
Didn't quite get to that yesterday.
We did not. And he's
So
had
he played against him twice a year in Denver.
the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Saw him once when he was in Seattle
Makes sense.
against the Giants defense when Spagnuolo was there. Russ is 2 for 3. Has won 2 of the 5 games.
Okay.
He's completed 101 of 154 passes for 1,012 yards with 11 touchdown passes and 4 interceptions. It's a passer rating of 97.1 against these Spagnuolo defenses.
Solid, yeah.
Yeah, so he's been pretty good.
And I'm sure they were dogs in those games.
Yeah.
You know, like they were playing against a better team.
Beat them last year.
Yeah, Denver did beat the Chiefs.
Now, in that game, that was actually, if you look at it statistically speaking, it was his worst game.
Oh, was it?
He only threw for like 115 yards.
Did they run all over him?
They turned him over quite a few times, but he threw 3 touchdown passes. So they didn't have to throw the ball a whole bunch.
Which is what we've talked about Wilson before he even suited up for the Steelers.
Yeah.
You know, when they signed him, novel concept. They're going to throw a touchdown pass this year, you know, right.
And he's largely done that. I mean, he's got 15 touchdowns. That milestone just kind of went by the wayside. Nobody mentioned it, but they've thrown way more touchdown passes this year than they have the previous 2 years.
Oh, yeah. But 2 games to play, and he didn't even play the first, 6 games of the season. Or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
So he's at 15 touchdown passes with 4 interceptions. It's actually one of the better touchdown-interception ratios in the league right now.
Which
obviously,
is a trend of his, obviously, over the years.
But the other thing that he has done well this season, which could come into play in this game, his passer rating against the blitz is 113.3.
Is it? Spags is known as a aggressive.
They have the second highest blitz rate in the league, and you're going to see it on third down. Every third down.
Yeah, they don't even
every
hide
third
it,
down.
really,
It's just 9 guys at the line of scrimmage.
Yep.
These corners are going to press.
Yep.
And you got to figure out who's coming and who's not.
Yeah, there's a lot of sims. There's a lot of simulated pressures. There's a lot of linebacker stuff like Chenal and those guys will come. They're a heavier downhill group on the second level. They'll bring some defensive backs too. Some of their DBs have sacks this year, and the secondary to me isn't great though. I mean, compared to like last year because they had Snead.
McDuffie's good.
McDuffie's real good. Yeah. I mean, I think in a perfect world he's a slot, but that's like it's kind of like he's like a better version of Humphrey to me. You know, like ideally if it's an all-star team, he'd be your slot guy, but that's not how the world works. And he's a really good outside corner too.
Yeah.
But they used to have Snead, who was their porter. You know,
it was their press guy.
Press guy. Yeah. You know,
and they still like to press. That to me, with George Pickens coming back, if you're going to press George Pickens on stuff like that, I'm gonna if I'm Russell Wilson, anytime I see that look where they've got 9 guys, it looks like zero blitz. and I got Pickens matched up one-on-one on the outside, I'm going to him
a lot.
And just you're going to press George Pickens? Good luck with that, because I'm just going to lob it up and he's going to catch it.
Yeah, and it's not even – he's good at getting off the line, but it's more the catch point stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, just going up and getting the
he's
high
bigger and
ball.
more physical and has that, catch
the leaping
radius.
ability and body control and all that good stuff, even if it's McDuffie. But I would think Pickens is going to get featured in this one right out of the bat.
Yeah. Now, one thing does McDuffie travel? I don't know.
I mean, it's Tuesday morning.
Yeah.
I haven't studied it. I would bet not. I mean, just his style of play, but I'm not certain on that.
Yeah. So I would try to get that, even if he does. I don't care.
Yeah,
I'm going to trust Pickens in those situations, and we know Russell Wilson throws a good, fade / back shoulder.
He's also excellent at diagnosing the blitz and where to go with it. And I mean, I'm comparing it to recent Steelers quarterbacks. It's night and day.
Yeah.
In terms of. This is the hot route. This is where I need to go. You need to, alter your route, check at the line of scrimmage, check to a slant, whatever, as opposed to a longer developing route. So blitz doesn't worry me all that much, to be honest with you. The backs are pretty good in protection. Washington's good.
Yeah. The only thing that does worry me is you have to stay on schedule.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in a bunch of 3rd and 8s.
Oh, that's trouble.
That's trouble because they're going to force you to get rid of the ball quickly, and they're going to tackle the catch.
And you mentioned it, before. They averaged 6 yards per first down this past game.
Yeah,
I mean that was one of the. I know they lost, but that was definitely one of the things that was encouraging.
They mixed it up a little bit more.
They threw a little bit better. It's one of the best running games in a while too. I mean, I'm not saying it's just because of Warren, but Warren's coming on strong. I think the running game's starting to hit his stride. Stay out of 3rd down. Stay out of 3rd and longs. It's crucial for this offense.
If you have to throw a little bit, it was about a 50-50 split. I tweet out stuff from the press conferences with the coordinators when they're doing those, and I was tweeting out some stuff from the Arthur Smith press conference yesterday, and immediately, well, why do we do that? All he does is run the ball every time on first down. I'm like, pay attention.
Right.
Watch the game. Don't just go into it with preconceived thoughts. They threw the ball 14 times on first downs against the Ravens.
Yep.
It was not the same game plan that you've seen. I get it. There was too much of that stuff. But they zigged.
But they changed things
up.
Right. This happens all the time in the league. I mean, almost any team, and I make these mistakes too, like previewing games, picking games. If they go 2 games in a row and can't stop the run, what do you think they do all week?
Right.
I mean, these teams know what they're doing wrong a high percentage of the time and might overcorrect it. Boy, they got thrown on a ton in the 3rd game because they tried to sell out the run so heavy.
Yeah. It just, that's the ebb and flow of a season. And,
yeah.
Honestly, there's a lot of anger right now.
Because they've lost 2 in a row.
Because they've lost 2 in a row to 2 good teams on the road.
Yeah, they were dogs in both. I mean, that's
we both picked them to lose those games. These aren't surprising losses. This is what happens in the NFL.
Right. I keep comparing it to Patriots-Cardinals last year, and it's night and day.
Night and day.
I mean, it's
like
not
you were
even the
expected
same,
to win those games.
I'm getting the same kind of
Vitriol.
Comments and responses, and they're just going to limp in the playoffs, lose again. They can't play with anybody. No, I mean, it's not the same as last year when you lost to 2 of the worst teams in the league in a bad stint. I mean, teams have bad stints, and
even those games, people forget. Kenny Pickett got hurt at the end of the first half against the Cardinals,
right.
And they started Mitch Trubisky in the second game.
Right.
Their record when Mitch Trubisky started
was not so great.
Was really, really bad over the 2 years that he was here.
He's proven that he's a backup on a good day.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure if the Bills have some infatuation with him.
I think
not
Josh
sure
Allen
anybody
likes
else.
him.
I think they're buddies. I mean, they must bounce stuff off each other in the meeting room.
I mean, I'll freely admit I was completely wrong about Mitch Trubisky.
I thought he'd be noticeably better. I didn't think he was going to be the next Roethlisberger or anything like that.
No, nothing like that. But I thought he'd be fine.
I thought at least a stopgap. Was a disaster. Right.
Yeah. I mean, they lost a lot when he started because he turns the ball over.
Yeah. And he doesn't give you the highs.
He doesn't give. The highs there were some highs, but it didn't balance out the lows. So I think they can be successful against the Chiefs if they stick to a similar game plan to what they had against the Ravens, and that's throwing the ball on early
I'd
downs.
say first down balance would be is intriguing to me.
Yeah, second and 5 sounds great if they're in 2nd and 5 the entire game.
Oh yeah. I think you can live out of that for sure, and that could be a run or pass down. The one thing I've been critical of Smith is too many second and long runs, because that basically just begs for third down, whether it's third and short or not. But if you could stay out of second and long, I think that's promising as well. They just have to stay on the field longer. Time and possession. I've been harping on it all week. The week's been 24 hours.
Yeah.
But time of possession to me is one of their one of their special teams turnovers, staples of when this team's strong. They're at the top of the league in time of possession, and the last 3 weeks have been bad. You can't live like that.
The interesting thing about this Chiefs team is if you look at them, a lot of the numbers are nearly identical to the Steelers.
Are they?
Offensively and defensively. They're very close in every category. 4
That
yards
doesn't
per carry.
shock
They
me.
allow 4 yards per carry. The yardage that they give up. Red zone. You'd think of the Chiefs being a great red zone offense. Well, they're 51.7 this season in the red zone. 31 of 60. Now, they get to the red zone quite a bit because on third downs, this is the one area where they really stand out. On third downs, they convert 51%.
Okay. See, I've done very little homework by my standards. Tuesday's my digging day. But I did do a little at because one of the things I do on Mondays, because it doesn't matter what the rest of the league is, I go to ESPN.com and there's a team, there's team stats, and I just look at what they've done versus what they've allowed.
Yeah.
And I was shocked. I mean, like you mentioned the third down stuff. This adds up because they have 49 more first downs than they've allowed. That's a ton.
It's a ton.
That's a ton.
Yeah.
And that carries a lot of weight. They also have the fewest penalties in the league, which helps. To your point, I was blown away how even Steven they are in a lot of categories, though. You know, like
they look like a 500 football team.
They look like a 500 football team
based on what they give up and what they allow.
Yeah. Yards per carry, 4.0. They allow 4.0.
Yeah.
They produce 6.7 yards per pass attempt. They allow 6.8. They have 23 passing touchdowns. They've allowed 20. They have allowed 36 sacks, and they have produced 34. They've thrown 11 interceptions, and they have 12 interceptions on defense.
They're about a 500 team on
crucial categories. They're like dead even in.
But the one area where they stand out is on third downs, where they convert 51%.
Exactly.
They allow 40.5, which isn't great.
Right.
But when you're converting 51% of yours,
a conversion
it's a
rate.
significant difference.
All the money downs, all that stuff has been phenomenal. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, that's really where they're making their money this year.
So you have to hold them.
Not a lot of mistakes, too.
Yeah.
You know.
To me, you have to win first and second down against this team, and then make Mahomes get into third and eights, where he has to hold the ball longer than he wants to.
Yeah, especially with those tackles. And I don't even know at this point, do you zag a lot more on third downs than you used to? They blitzed Lamar too much, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I didn't understand that strategy going in, but that doesn't mean you don't blitz. Mahomes doesn't really have any noticeable
I think one of the reasons why they blitzed Lamar so much is because they knew they had 3 of their 4 defensive back starters
they just
out.
don't want them running around long.
You can't. You knew you weren't going to be able to cover all day,
Mm-hmm.
so you had to get to him. You had to pressure him, and again, that's not the way they played him the first time. But they had all their defensive backs
They were
the first time.
different chess pieces, obviously.
Yeah. So that's one of the things that you have to kind of do to when you again, you talk about the next man up mentality, but in reality,
they don't have a Porter replacement.
No.
It's not as big a deal as Pickens, but I think it's in the neighborhood, just in terms of what the rest of that position room looks like.
Yeah, I think because of that, you probably end up playing a little more zone in this game.
I was thinking that as well. You're better at safety than you've been the last couple of weeks. One of my off-season things to discuss is, they're a heavy cover 3 with Minka in the middle of the field team. But Porter's really best in man, but the rest of the corners aren't great in man.
There are still people who think, I still get this all the time, Joey Porter sucks.
I get that all the time. I'm like, boy, he's turned into a bust. Huh? I'm like,
you
no.
need to watch you need to look around the league.
Yeah.
Yes, he gets penalties. Every cornerback who plays a lot of press man coverage gets penalties.
That follows number 1.
McDuffie is highly penalized.
Oh, yeah. I mentioned Snead. He was the number 1 last year.
He was number 1, yeah.
Right.
Because you're being physical at the line of scrimmage and stuff's going to happen.
And then he got a huge contract.
Yeah.
And the Titans gave a bunch of nice picks and gave him a huge contract.
Yeah.
Right. So those guys are super valuable. Yeah,
absolutely. But to me, the third down stuff, I mean, that's the biggest difference. They're converting 11% more.
Yeah.
They have 107 third down conversions compared to 75 allowed.
That doesn't surprise me.
I mean, that's like 2 a game,
Mm-hmm.
2 more additional chances to continue to play in the game.
Oh, yeah.
That's huge.
Punting it away, right?
Yeah, and it gets you into field goal range. Again, 31 of 60 in the red zone.
In the red zone, too. Yeah, so all the weighty downs, they're probably the best in the league at.
Yeah, I mean,
Tomlin talks about it all the time.
And that's where Mahomes is really.
That's why his numbers aren't as great as they usually look. But when he needs a play, he makes a play.
When you need 7, he gets he gets 8
all the time.
Yeah,
all
and
the
that's
time.
just
somehow.
Yeah,
whether it's with his legs. I mean, you had some numbers about his scrambles are highly efficient. Excuse me, those tight ends are, you can move the chains with them still, even if they don't create a lot of explosives. And now they have some speed on the outside too.
Yeah,
and Hopkins is added, settled in. I think this is the best their receiving core has been since Rashee Rice got hurt. I mean, that was a big blow to them. It didn't make them lose games all of a sudden, but he was setting up for huge numbers this year.
Yeah, just looking here, the Steelers have 50 red zone trips on offense this year. The Chiefs have 60, which sounds like a big difference, but I'll bet you dollars to donuts the Steelers have more explosive plays.
Oh, there's no question.
Yeah,
there's no question
because the Chiefs just don't do that.
No,
they're
still trying
the ball down the field.
I'm sure it's making Andy Reid a little crazy that they want to still create explosives, but
they just can't.
What they're doing is working.
Yeah. So it's going to be an interesting game.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk more about this with Rob King when we return. He is the Matt Williamson. I'm Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with more right after this. And we are back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson, and we're joined on the Justin Miller hotline by published author, Steelers, voice of the Steelers, Rob King, The Door in the Stone. You can get that. Makes a great Christmas present, last second
really
gift. You can go ahead and maybe send that out to somebody. I got you this. It's the shipping was slow on it, but it's coming.
Exactly. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. We as guys, we have to do that, right?
Right.
I don't know what happened. I put in the order.
Post office, man.
You have to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to be vague so you're not actually, lying. A while ago, define a while. That could be 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, right. Yeah, define it.
Right. So,
Kinger, big game on Wednesday, Steelers versus Chiefs. We've seen a couple of big games here in the last couple of days. Matt and I were talking about this yesterday. 4 road games in the past 5 weeks for the Steelers. 2 of those on short work weeks. One on, you played a Thursday night game, you played a Saturday game. So you lose a day of practice in that regard. And I don't know how you felt when you got home Saturday. I was pretty tired. I felt like I'd played a football game.
Yeah,
been on the road a lot.
It's been a lot. And, look, I think you just see, even when you're playing a division opponent like Cleveland, right? Like if you don't play well, you're not going to win, and especially on the road. Now you take, you throw in some health and you're on the road and you're facing much better competition. And there are some things you don't execute, and what happened is going to happen. This road grader of a schedule wound up being kind of just what we feared, right? This has been a very, very difficult stretch. However, I think the Steelers and their fans are going to feel a lot better about things if you come up with a good performance tomorrow against a Chiefs team. Look, every time they come up with a challenge, they find a way to win. I watched the Houston game yesterday. Houston misses an extra point, but then the Chiefs take advantage of it. I mean, they're like hyenas. They around a victory. They know how to find a win. They know how to tear you apart to get to a win somehow, some way. They've beaten good teams, and it's going to be a big challenge. But I just think the fact that you're home, to your point, Dale, and that you're healthy, healthier than you've been. Not healthy 100%, but healthier than you've been, should help make this a strong performance tomorrow.
Rob, I don't know about you, but the more I've dug into it, and again, it's Tuesday morning here. I mean, so it's not like a normal week, but there is a real art to finding a way to win or not losing a game. And I really think over Tomlin's career, he's been one of the best in the league at that. Brady, Belichick. But these guys might be taking it to a new level in just terms of what is the few things I have to do in this game to not lose it or to squeak out a win. And it's kind of an art form. It's not pretty, but it's kind of an art form.
Well, I agree. And, Matt, I know that you had the statistics prior to the year about how many one-score games. I think the Steelers were, 7 or 8 and 2 in one-score games last year.
Yeah, and all the analytics people will be like, well, you're going to return to the mean. You'll get closer to 500.
Right.
I'm like, well, these guys have won 16 in a row.
Yeah, but you have to say Mike Tomlin's done that throughout the course of his career.
Yeah.
So that gives you evidence that he knows how to do that. And the fact that it's been not only 16 in a row, which is impressive, but 16 out of their last, 20 games? 22 games, something. I mean, I would have to do the math. It was I think it was Christmas Day of last year, right? You guys were when we were taping the show yesterday. Something was, I don't know, I can't remember if Matt or Dale, which one of it was, telling me that it was Christmas Day of last year, the last time the last time the Chiefs lost a one-score game. So
right. Yeah.
that's basically the course of a season and a postseason.
And that was to the Raiders at home. The Raiders. They lost 20-14 at home because they turned the ball over in that game 2 times, and they didn't force any turnovers themselves.
Obviously, an entire calendar year,
Yeah, right. And again, that's how many games have they played? Like 20 or 21 since then?
More than anybody else.
Yeah, I mean,
they have been one-score games.
They had 3 one-score wins in the playoffs last year.
Yeah, it's just what they have done, what they can do. And yes, they've taken that as an art form to another height. I think the other thing that we've seen is that, first of all, if you want any proof of what wins games, Matt, to your point, just look at the Chiefs. The ability to execute when you need to is and the ability to take advantage of other teams' mistakes. Like you said, not lose the game. Even when you are playing a team that you beat, even sometimes that you beat soundly. I mean, I think we can look back at almost every single Steelers win and think there were 4 or 5 key plays. Mike Tomlin talks about this. 4 or 5 key plays that turned the game. People don't want to think that. They don't want to think that a bad team can win in the NFL. But of course they can. Nobody goes 0-17, except the Browns.
Or just blow someone out snap after snap after snap, and unless it's last night's game.
Sure. Right. It happens, right? It happens. Sometimes a bad team, they just get on top of them. Quarterback play can be a big part of that. If you're a team that is struggling at the quarterback position, you don't have any good quarterback play, you can get rolled by a good team.
But it's pretty rare.
So,
it's pretty rare in this league.
It is
down after down.
Pretty rare. And I mean, I think we look at, I look at this Ravens game, and we talked about this, guys, earlier in the year after the Colts game. I thought there were any one of 5 or 6 plays that we identified after the Colts game. If any of those had gone the Steelers' way, they would have won the game. Now, it's a little different against the Ravens. You can't say that when you lost by 2 scores. You can't say, well, if we'd done this, we would have won the game. But you would have been in the game. If Russell Wilson, so Russell Wilson fumbles, but let's say he recovers it because the Ravens recovered 2 of their own fumbles. Then you start to think about, okay, what if? There's a Russell Wilson, losing that fumble is at least a 10-point swing, at least.
100%.
Them getting a pick 6 against instead of you, there's another 7 points. And so, and then you have the cumulative effect of you don't keep a drive going, so the defense goes out there, and that's another thing that hasn't happened. It's just been disjointed, non-complimentary football. We talked about this yesterday, guys. You have 7 3-and-outs over the last 2 games. You've only forced 1. Well, that's not going to add up to winning football. It's just not. And so late in the game against Philadelphia, where 5 of those 3-and-outs occurred, what's happening? Your defense is getting tired. It's been on the field too long. But then again how about coming up with some sort of stop? Maybe trip somebody up on 3rd and 7 and that now they have to punt it away, and now you go on a drive, and that defense gets rested, and now that last drive for Philadelphia maybe doesn't happen. But again, there's more maybes over the last couple of weeks, and the better the competition, the more apt you are to lose a game in which you don't play complimentary football and don't take advantage of those 4 or 5 moments in every game, just like we've seen the Steelers do to other opponents. But these are, we're getting a preview of what you can't do to be able to win and beat some of the top teams in the NFL, because they're going to get a third top team in a row here coming up tomorrow.
I know you're not implying like if Wilson doesn't turn the ball over twice, they would have been better at tackling Derrick Henry. Like they still had problems,
right? No,
of course.
Exactly.
But that's one of the things that's interesting about that game.
You can choose your own adventure a little different, though,
Right.
Even though they had the trouble with Derrick Henry and stopping the run, that game was 17-17 with 5 minutes left in the third quarter, despite everything that happened to that point.
Yeah.
Like they weren't tackling Derrick Henry, but it was 17-17.
But that doesn't mean they would drop 40 on you.
Right.
Right. It's still a long way to putting up points.
And so they were, to your point, they were right in that football game.
Well, same thing with the Eagles. Najee, who never fumbles, has that snap hit him, and he just, that pitch, and he's just looking up, right? Like for the first time in his career, he picks that moment to look up.
Mm-hmm.
And now, does that mean they win the game? No, but does it mean they go in and score a touchdown or make it 17-13, possess the ball for another 3 or 4 minutes so that your defense is over there and can get a rest? And maybe they do come up with a tackle on the next drive. I mean, there's a lot of things you don't know.
Of course. But your head's above water longer. You're not drowning as early, right.
That's exact. And I'm telling you, just like we've seen the Steelers do, when a good team sniffs it, man, you are in trouble.
Yep.
And now, again,
all three of these opponents will bury you if you're like that,
That's exactly right. Just like the Steelers will do the same to you if they get up on you and they get you to make those mistakes. The thing, I don't want to completely dismiss the fact that I would have liked to have seen one or two things. I'd like to have seen you get down in a game and you go on a nice, long answering drive that quells things a little bit. You know what I mean? Okay, so Najee drops the pitch. Okay, fine. Now you go on a long drive to answer their long 13-play drive. And now your defense comes out and makes a stop. And now you've got the ball with a chance to tie it. And 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter. There are things like that haven't happened either. So I don't want to completely say that it's been all, the brakes weren't with us or we didn't make, there's a little bit of I wish some other things could have happened. Now, let's go back to
like Rob, it wouldn't have broke my heart if he fumbles at the 4 that they don't allow a 96-yard drive.
Yeah, that's all
right.
Part of that complimentary football stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. I think that's what we're getting at. Now, they're good, too. They're going to make their plays. I would have liked to have seen the Steelers over the last couple games make a play or two, even if you lose those games because you made more mistakes. Now, that having been said, I don't think we can underscore the effect of the lack of Deshaun Elliott, your surest tackler. Does he make a tackle somewhere in that Eagles game that stops somebody short on a third down? I mean, I just have to think he does. Does Larry Ogunjobi make a big difference, especially I think against Baltimore in the run game? Yes, I think he does. Dante Jackson on the outside, he's going to make a big difference. Now you're missing Joey Porter Jr., but you're getting 3 starters back, and then on offense you're getting Pickens back. And I just, you look at the numbers, and again, you have to be careful with numbers. Out for a couple of games doesn't necessarily mean a trend, but the level of competition's clearly gone up. I mean, you're not playing the Bengals defense the last couple of weeks. You're playing the Eagles, and you're playing a much improved Ravens defense. And this week you're going to be playing the Chiefs. I'm not about to say they're going to run right out there and score 200 have Russell Wilson's going to pass for 280 yards again, and they're going to score 40 points because George Pickens is back. But he makes a huge difference. So all those guys coming back, I think, makes this an especially interesting game. And the kind of game, you go out and play a good game, you can say, okay, that's great. We're ready for we still have the Bengals coming up, but we feel pretty darn good about our game going in because, we played with the biggest of the big boys, and we did it with most of our guys being healthy. You don't have to look at that health thing. You can look back at that health thing and say, hey, that was definitely a huge contributing factor.
Rob, we do that Monday show with Wolf, and he often, as a former player, references "do your 1/11th," and I thought your Elliott comment really resonated with me with that, because I was having a conversation with Tom Offerman last night that, let's say Elliott plays the last 2 games, and everyone has injuries, but if the Steelers as a team miss 2 fewer tackles in each of those games because he's on the field, that's a lot. I mean, like, that might be a first down. That might be 3 minutes of time of possession. It's a lot.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I you can't see me because we're on radio, but I'm like shaking my head. I just, we talked about this guy back in camp, and, I expressed my views then, and I'm sure you guys probably felt similarly, that I really liked the signing. I thought it was the most underrated move they made in the offseason. It was just like, oh yeah, they signed Deshaun Elliott. He's just in Baltimore, he was just a good, solid football player. And I wondered, because of that, because of that glue element, would he be, what Ryan Clark was to Troy Polamalu? Could he be that to Fitzpatrick? And again, different players, Ryan Clark's a big, big man. Troy Polamalu's an all-time great first ballot Hall of Famer. I understand that. I get it. But just a similar effect. Well, it's been that and more. I mean, he's a really, really good player who just I think what he does best has shown here. Environment, scheme, whatever it is. Maybe him maturing, even more as a player. I don't know what it is, but he has been fantastic. So yeah, I think he makes a big difference on this team. And again, I have to remind people that, look, everyone's been talking about the second wide receiver thing, but you don't have to take the word of the media. Just look at the fact that the Steelers were out actively trying to acquire Brandon Ayuk and others. They knew this could be an issue with Pickens being gone. It has been an issue. Now, hopefully, he's back. And I think that other players have matured over the course of the year, and I think they could have a really interesting passing game. But Pickens does need to be healthy for that.
Yeah, I think, looking at this glass half full over the last couple of weeks here, you've kind of discovered that, hey, if we get into crucial situations, we can throw Calvin Austin the football. It doesn't have to be, go to George Pickens in some of those situations. You can throw it to Pat Freiermuth to convert that first down. It doesn't have to go to George Pickens. It doesn't have to be 14 targets to George Pickens and everybody else gets 5, right. Split up. So I do believe that, maybe this has caused some short-term misery not having Pickens out there. But I think, you get into a playoff game and it's 3rd and 7, you're not just going to look, wait, let's draw something up for George here. We got to force the ball even though it's double coverage. No, we could throw it to Calvin Austin if he's got single coverage here.
Even tomorrow. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that what we've seen a little bit, I think, is what we hope to see, which is that you've got a really good offensive coordinator. You've got a veteran quarterback who himself is on the way to the Hall of Fame, who knows how to, read defenses, has the confidence to make throws, distribute the ball properly. He's seen it. He's been there. He's done that. You're not going to confuse him too often. And then you have a breadth of good targets, good players. So do you have that, number 2 T. Higgins receiver? No, you don't. But do you have players that, somewhere down the line, as you start to match up with their defensive players, you're going to find a mismatch, which is why I think we have seen Pat Freiermuth have big moments. We've seen Calvin Austin have big moments. We have seen Mike Williams on some go routes be able to do some things. We've seen Darnell Washington be a bigger part of the passing game. Eventually, you're going to be able to, with that combination of Arthur Smith, Russell Wilson, and the players you have, find some matchup that is favorable for you and exploit that. And sometimes it's just maybe it's just the scheme is enough, that the distribution of ball to a variety of receivers is going to be enough to keep the other team off balance and to keep your passing game going. And I think the Steelers have those elements to be able to be successful. But again, when you take George Pickens out of the equation, we've kind of seen how that looks over the last few weeks.
Rob, it's great that they're getting some defensive starters back, and that was much needed. But Porter, what's the loss of Joey Porter Jr. mean to you for this game, or the absence?
Yeah,
of,
that's a big one.
Yeah,
For sure, no doubt about it. You're going to have to find ways to get around that, and you're going to have to find ways to get around that against, the best quarterback in the NFL, and a guy putting up a strong argument for the best quarterback ever. Hate that conversation, although it's fun. But I mean, he's certainly, of this generation, I don't see how you can say he's anything but the best. So he's your top cover guy, no question. And it's interesting. You're looking at the Chiefs, and they're finding ways to get by, and they get Rice injured, and they get some other things, and then you're like, oh my gosh, Hollywood Brown. Wait a minute. How's he playing for them? He comes in next week, and that's a guy who is, you talk about a receiving core now. He's very close to being, that number one type of receiver for the team.
I don't know about that, Rob.
Well, I do think this is the best their pass catchers.
I mean, he's a good player, but he's not a true number one.
But he is a blow the top off. I mean, there are things that he can do that are better, and I'm not calling him a one.
He's not Tyreek, but he's a nice addition.
Is he a one? Yeah. I mean, I think they're more. I think. Let me rephrase that. So I think he would be. I think at this stage of his career, where DeAndre Hopkins is, I think he would be their best receiver. Let me put it that way. That's what I think. But again, it's the thing that makes them difficult is it's close. I mean, if you have him and you have Worthy, who 4.32,
he's stepping up lately too. Yeah, Worthy's been playing the best football of his career.
Well, that's what you hope for out of a rookie receiver, getting better over the course of the season. And now you have DeAndre Hopkins, and that's your three. How do you spread out the resources to cover those guys? So, I mean, I think that it's a talented group. It doesn't have that Jamar Chase, doesn't have a George Pickens, but what it does have is three good, solid receivers, and now you're out. You're out your top cover corner, who can hopefully help you maybe lock down one side of the field. I don't know whether he would travel in a game like this. I presume he would just stay on one side of the field because there isn't that sort of, but we don't know because he's not going to be out there. So it's a loss for sure. And then again, you talk about those three receivers. Okay, so they're all good, solid receivers. I think they're receivers. Those three guys are receivers that any team would be happy to have and would be part of their top three-man rotation, any one of them. I think pretty much in any team in the league. And then you have Kelsey, and then you have Noah Gray at the tight end position. So there are, and I mean a guy like Kareem Hunt coming out of the backfield. He's a decent receiver coming out of the backfield. They have a lot of weapons. We talked about the Steelers having a breadth of weapons. Well, the Chiefs' breadth of weapons have a longer pedigree of, especially when you talk about guys like Hopkins and like Kelsey of being elite players at their position. I don't think, Hopkins isn't elite anymore, but
Sure.
He's got the memory of being elite, it's without Joey Porter, it makes for a big challenge for the Steelers secondary. And I think it makes it especially important for, you think of playing Mahomes and the defense has to rise up. Well, I think the offense has to rise up in this game. You have to find a way to be able to sustain drives, keep Patrick Mahomes on the sideline. But again, you're going against an extremely formidable defense. It's not going to be easy, but you know what? That's the task at hand. You're talking about elite teams. You're talking about getting ready for the playoffs when you'll face elite teams. This is what you have to do.
Yep. Our guest has been Rob Kinger. Merry Christmas. We'll see you tomorrow down at the stadium, but enjoy your Christmas Eve.
You do the same, my friends.
Door in the Stone, you got to get it. You can get that.
Door in the Stone, Amazon.
Last-minute
gift.
Great book.
Thanks, guys.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
I appreciate the pitch. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas to you guys.
Our guest has been Rob King, the Steelers play-by-play announcer, the voice of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and published author. He is Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. We'll be back with more right after this. Welcome back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And, week 16 now in the books after the Green Bay Packers just destroyed the New Orleans Saints last night. 34-0. It really could have been 100-0 if Green Bay wanted it to be.
Yeah, I'll be honest. Like, it's just one of the things you're taught immediately as a scout. Like, I remember the first game I ever went to sitting in the press box scouting. I was sitting next to this older scout, and he's like, "You're new around here, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Don't ever leave a game early." And he's like, that's this young generation, they'll leave games early. I could have left this game at the first quarter. I mean, like, rarely. I'll watch every Monday nighter to the very end, every Sunday nighter to the very end.
I quit at halftime. I mean, I had it up on my laptop.
I strongly considered it. I'm like, maybe I'll watch a Succession or something. I mean, this is not close to being competitive.
Yeah.
Couldn't even write a story of how they could come back and make
no
it
chance.
even.
No chance.
I mean, you're playing all your backups in, and Willis and Jacobs is
as a
pulled
scout.
And, right.
You may want to watch that because
you want to see what the Saints
you're
are doing.
You're seeing what that guy kind of did some nice things.
Third string running back or those guys, no
doubt.
But
beyond that, there was no reason to watch that disaster.
The first shutout of the year.
Yeah,
I mean, I was shocked to hear that, but it adds up.
I mean, it's how hard it is to play defense in the league right now. That was the
kind of where I was
first
going
shutout
with that,
of the season.
I think it was. Yesterday was a whirlwind, but in a couple outlets, I definitely mentioned that defense. There's no 70 Steelers.
There's no such thing as a shutdown defense.
There's no
in
85
NFL.
Bears where you're happy to get 10 points. I mean, like, that's how those defenses were like.
The rules are just set up against you. It's so much. I mean, it's night and day. It's not even really the same game anymore.
No,
as it was in 1978,
or
77, or 76.
It's funny. Like, my buddies and I they were chatting about the Penguins. I guess Sid Crosby reached Lemieux's assist number, right? But it's like 400 games less. And Lemieux's my all-time favorite. But they were talking about, like, how much that game's changed. Like, if you go watch, like, Gretzky highlights or Bossy highlights, there's this much net to shoot at. The pads are so much different. I mean, it's almost like defense nowadays where the game has just changed so much that with fantasy football and betting and the way the game's growing, they don't want 6 to 9 games. And even if the offensive lines aren't as talented as defensive lines, they're going to do everything possible that there's points. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where the hockey's gone the other way, But anyway, to my point, what we've been talking about a lot this last 24 hours or so is because there's no shutdown defenses, if you're on the field a lot on defense, you're going to get exposed. Every one of these 32, not just the Steelers.
Well, that's why there's a greater emphasis on turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to shut teams down in today's NFL. And to expect that, and I see that a lot, this defense stinks. They can't stop anybody.
Yeah.
Look around the league. There's if you look at the top defenses in the league right now.
Like right now, I think the Eagles are playing the best of any defense.
Yeah.
But even like the Vikings are at the top, but they've had a lot of good moments, more good than bad, but they're a little up and down.
There used to be between every year 8 to 10 teams allowing less than 300 yards per game.
Mm-hmm.
This year there's one.
Really?
One. And the Eagles are allowing 281.7 yards per game. I guarantee you if I went back 10 years in the NFL, there would be at least 6 or 7 teams holding teams under 300 yards, and 281.7 wouldn't be anywhere close to being the lead. I can do that right now. I can look at it now. I'll go back to 2014.
And another thing that's changed, too, is every team has a Justin Tucker in their prime now, too. There's so much fewer missed field goals, and they're making them from all over, which result in points. Not like points are through the roof. It's not like the COVID year or anything, but you're not going to shut teams down is my point.
2014, the leader was the Seattle Seahawks, the Legion of Boom, 261.7. That's 2014. If I go back to 2004 and look at the top defense, well, here we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams that held teams under 300 yards, led by the Steelers at 258.4.
Okay.
But
that was a little more common even
difference,
then.
2004, what happened between 2004 and 2014?
Mm-hmm.
Smashing people over the middle of the field became illegal.
Oh, yeah. No doubt.
You can't just destroy a receiver going over the middle. So they go over the middle now with complete knowledge that, well,
I might get a big hit.
I might get a big hit, but it's probably going to get a penalty.
It's not Jack Tatum.
Nobody's going to try to do that to me here because that's back in those days, a ball thrown over the middle.
Yeah.
You knew you were going to take a big hit.
Yep.
Now that doesn't happen.
They protect quarterbacks 1,000 times better, too. I mean, you listen to any broadcast, even like with Aikman or any of those guys, they respect it, but they're jealous, let alone the Bradshaw years.
Yeah.
I mean, right.
I mean, you could horse collar tackle was legal.
Yeah.
There was all kinds of stuff that they have phased out of the game now to where
playing defense is just harder than ever.
It's so much harder.
But I also think they have an athletic advantage. There's so many defensive athletes coming into the league.
I mean,
that's
even
why they're trying to counter
just look at some of the hip drop tackle is now illegal. You can't do that anymore. That was a staple back in those days.
But I'm not implying that the Steeler defense has been great the last 2 weeks, but you can't be on the field that long.
You also have to look at things in context, and it's just not easy to play defense now. It just isn't, and you don't want to play too much of it. But the biggest emphasis should be sacks and turnovers. Yeah. Sacks and turnovers are huge, and they do get those.
They do get those, and it's been a consistent thing over years time. They have playmakers, they have team speed, they have pass rushers. That's the best way to start.
Yeah, so we'll see if that's the best way to start against the Kansas City Chiefs. Yep. The Steelers will. If
you're on the field for 35 minutes on Christmas Day, though,
not going to be good.
It's not going to lead to your stocking, brother.
Yeah. Not going to lead to good things.
Reed are going to figure you out.
Absolutely.
Wear you out.
Looking at the playoff race here real quick. In the AFC, all but 10 teams have been eliminated. As we mentioned, 5 playoff spots have been claimed. Kansas City, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Houston, and Baltimore. 2 spots still up for grabs, that being the Chargers and Broncos. Either one of those teams would clinch themselves with a win
this week
in either of their final 2 games.
Just one
win or a tie.
Win or more tie, and they're in.
And you're in.
Okay.
It doesn't matter what anybody else does. If you get a win or a tie in your final 2 games, you are in.
For the Chargers and
Broncos. Over in the NFC now, 6 of the playoff spots have been clinched. You've got the Washington Commanders at 10-5 in the 7th spot. Tampa Bay and Seattle, the 2 teams chasing them. Everybody else in the NFC has been eliminated. They're both 2 games.
I'm confused a second then. You said 6 spots are clinched?
Yes.
So
technically,
there should be 5.
Actually,
right?
there's 4 spots clinched because we don't
know the winner of
the West and the South have still. But you have Atlanta leading the South now at 8-7.
We know there's going to be a division winner. Yeah. And then we know the other teams.
Yeah. If Atlanta wins out, they win the division. It doesn't matter what Tampa Bay does because they have the tiebreaker over Tampa. Tampa needs a loss by the Falcons, and they need to win out.
Yes.
To win the division.
That makes more sense, right?
They can still get in if Washington loses its final 2 games.
Gotcha. But we don't know 6 guaranteed teams that are going.
No.
In the NFC.
In the NFC West, Seattle is 8-7, a game behind the Rams at 9-6. They play
week 18,
final week.
Right,
so, Seattle needs to win this week. They don't necessarily need the Rams to lose, but they need to win because they'll play each other in the final week of the season, and therefore could pull into a tie. And then I don't know how the tiebreakers work with that.
Yeah, I don't know if you know the answer to this, but if Seattle loses this week, are they out? The Rams win the division?
Yeah.
Okay, I would imagine. Yeah. Okay.
So that's where we stand.
Yeah, there's a lot to play for.
Absolutely. But let's get to a break. That's going to do it for hour number 1 of the drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with hour number 2 right after this. And we are back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And Matt, kicking off hour number 2 here, it is time to do a little fantasy football focus here.
Yep, let's do it.
And with 2 standalone games on Wednesday.
Good teams.
Good teams that we know well.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and put together a DFS lineup here. We're going to go 50-50 with the no captain's chair here. We don't need a captain's chair. We're just going to go play this like a normal.
Yeah, we're so position by position. We need a defense. We need a tight end.
So it's going to be interesting. You're going to have to find the right combination of players.
There's 4 defenses to pick from.
Right.
There's 4 quarterbacks, 4 tight ends.
So there's going to be some chalky stuff here. So we got to find a way to put this together the best situation. So looking at the defenses, obviously there's only 4. The Ravens are $3,200.
So the Ravens should be the most expensive.
The Chiefs are $3,000. The Steelers are $2,800, and the Texans are $2,600.
Texans have a good defense, though.
Both home teams cheaper than the road
Yeah.
teams.
I almost kind of want to come back to this because I don't have a problem with any of the four. There's
No,
none that
nor do
have
I.
to have.
Right. Let's look at tight end.
Okay.
Kelsey is 5,300. Mark Andrews is 4,300.
What
Dalton.
are the Texans against tight ends?
The Texans are 11th.
Okay.
Dalton Schultz is 4,100. Pat Fryermuth, 3,900. Isaiah Likely, 3,500. Noah Gray is 3,300. Darnell Washington, 2,500. I'm just looking here.
Yeah.
That's really the guys that really play. Michael Pruitt is 2,500. Connor Hayward is 2,500. The Chiefs are 30th against opposing tight ends. I kind of like Fryermuth there.
My suggestion was going to be Schultz with Dell out. I mean, I think
That's not a bad pivot, too, yeah.
Right. I mean, Deontay's not going to play
No.
or be a part of the Texans at all. I'm not a huge Schultz believer. You know, I think he's a little overrated.
But he
in the
does get a
fantasy
lot of
world.
targets.
But yeah, especially we've seen what their offense looks like with one of the two receivers out, and he gets a lot.
He got 8 targets in the last game against the Chiefs. Now,
Okay.
that is against but he had 5 for 45 and a touchdown.
Dell got hurt like in the second quarter. I know it was the first
Yeah.
half.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. I don't have a problem with Fryermuth, but I do think Schultz is cheaper.
Schultz is $200 more.
More. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we can if we need the money.
We can fiddle around with it.
We can go with Schultz, and if we need the money, we can go to Fryer. I think Fryermuth, like his over-under in this game is like 30.5.
I like the over
That's
on that.
over.
I like the over on that.
That's over.
I don't think Kelsey goes crazy.
I don't think he does either,
I mean, I think they're really on a pitch count
especially
with
on a
Kelsey.
short week.
On a short week
Yeah.
at his age, right?
At quarterback, Lamar is 8,000. Patrick Mahomes is 6,500. Stroud is 6,000. Russell Wilson is 5,500. And we don't need to talk about any of the backups.
No. I think I'd pay up for Lamar.
I kind of like Stroud.
I
Well,
worry about their protection.
I worry about the
in a
protection. Yeah.
big way.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I think I would pay up for Lamar.
I mean, he's probably going to run. He's probably going to get you 50 yards on the ground.
Yeah.
You know.
But then you might be sticking yourself at running back and receiver here.
Oh, I'm sure it's not going to be pretty.
Yeah.
Or we're going to take the cheapest defense, or
Yeah. Derrick Henry is 8,200. Joe Mixon 7,700. Isaiah Pacheco 5,700. Jalen Warren 5,500. Najee Harris 5,400. Kareem Hunt 5,200. Justice Hill is not going to play 4,700. Keaton Mitchell 4,400. Pierce is 4,200. Cordero Patterson 4,100.
How about Ali?
Rashad Ali is 4,300.
See, the answer, the question hasn't put out, but I don't know the answer to.
P. Ryan is 4,000.
When Hill got hurt, Ali played a little more, but he didn't take over the third down.
No,
did he?
they left Henry out there in some third down situations.
Which they don't usually do.
Yeah.
Will that go to Mitchell? I just don't know.
Mitchell
Ali's
was
background.
inactive the last game.
That's why I'm
and
thinking he might be a sneaky cheap one. Because they don't want Henry out there in third downs.
No, especially on a short week. But is that going to be enough work to?
I'm just saying.
I don't know.
If we could find a cheapie somewhere along the lines.
With
then maybe
Mitchell,
we
it
can
would be a
end up with
complete
Nico
guess
or-
because he has done nothing
Complete guess.
since he has come back. Ali in that game last week, did he touch the football? He had 2 carries, one carry for 2 yards and no targets.
I wish I knew more about Ali as a prospect
Yeah.
because my hunch is he was active because he's probably on teams. I mean, he's your third running back, so
And Mitchell's not going to play any teams at this point.
No. Assuming he's active, I think he'll be the third down back. And now I know that's a risk, but he's got to be cheap. I also kind of like Warren for the buck.
Yeah, and we can average 5,400 the rest of the way here because we went, but we haven't gotten a defense, so that's going to kick up a little bit here.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to pick a cheap D
Let's
now?
just pick a defense now. Yeah, we'll put the Texans in for now,
That's fine.
and we'll probably switch off of that.
Okay. Is that the cheapest one?
That's the cheapest one. The Steelers are
Okay.
2,800. That gets us up. We can average almost 5,900 the rest of the way. So
I don't love having our quarterback going against our defense.
I don't either.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
chances are they're both not going to hit.
yeah.
But we can come back. You want to look at receivers? Is there ones we love?
Yeah, let's see what that looks like. Nico Collins,
Nico has to be number one.
8,300. We can't afford him.
Okay.
George Pickens.
Lamar's the only guy we paid up for, but I guess he's a monster pay.
8,000, yeah. Pickens is 6,600. Zay Flowers, 6,400. Both are questionable, but they're both going to play. Xavier Worthy, 5,600. DeAndre Hopkins, 5,100. Bateman is 4,800.
Is he questionable?
No.
Okay, he's done. Okay,
Yeah.
he's off that.
Hollywood Brown is 4,500. Calvin Austin, 4,200. Mechie is 4,000.
I assume they think he's going to be the 2.
I guess Robert Woods is
I would say
3,800.
Woods must be right next to him.
Mike Williams, 3,600. Van Jefferson, 3,500. Aguilar, 3,400. I don't know if he he still hadn't been cleared from concussion protocol. Xavier Hutchinson is 3,300.
He plays.
Juju is 3,200. Tylen Wallace, 3,100. Justin Watson, 3,000.
I don't mind Austin for the buck.
I don't mind that one. I mean, there's some guys in that range. Like Hollywood Brown at 4,500.
Brown was the guy that absolutely stood out. Like, I don't have it in front of me. Actually, I do. But he didn't play a ton, but they threw him the ball.
He had 5 catches last
every
week.
time he was.
It wasn't
out
for
there.
big yards, but 5 catches. They were trying to
get him incorporated
Yeah.
for this stretch run. Now, but that was only 4 days ago or whatever. But I do think
if that allows us to like pay up for a Pickens or something like that, it could be. There's only 3 receivers that are over 6,000.
So here's where the numbers on him. I mean, because they're pretty stark. He only ran 14 routes, but they threw him the ball 8 times on 14 routes.
Yeah.
You know, he was designed first target. And there's a bigger picture in mind there. I mean, that's gear him up for the playoffs.
Yeah.
And maybe that's not to help you beat the Steelers, but so I'm sure he's going to run more than 14 routes in his second game.
All right, 4,500. We'll plug him in. That gets us up. We can average 61-60 the rest of the way. Now,
Did we put Austin in or no?
we can put Austin in.
I don't think he's going away.
I don't think so either. That would get us up to 66.50.
I say then we're at least going under budget on some guys.
Then do you want to go?
You didn't seem real keen on my Mitchell idea. I'm just looking for cheapies.
We don't need necessarily a cheapie though. If we do that,
Yeah.
with Brown and Austin, we might even be able to get a guy like Andrews into the lineup at tight end if
Okay.
we do that, because we can average 66.50 now the rest of the way.
What's Warren cost?
Now you got me jumping back and forth.
I know, but
Jalen Warren's 5,500. Joe
he's
Mixon's
under budget, though.
7,700. Derrick Henry 8,200.
I don't know that Henry goes bonkers.
Yeah, they may try to mitigate that a little bit.
Could we afford Nico?
$8,300. That
I mean,
puts us
we
back
would-
under budget
Then
again.
we're like in the Mitchell
Yeah.
neighborhood for
Yeah.
fill-in guys.
Yeah. I like Pickens and Flowers.
I don't mind Pickens either. And Flowers, you said?
Yeah, Pickens is 6,600. Flowers is 6,400. Both are under budget, actually.
I assume he'll get Stingley,
Yeah.
which I like Pickens more than Flowers.
Okay. So let's plug Pickens in. We have 2 Steeler receivers.
Yeah,
in the
that
game.
part I don't love, but yeah.
But I mean, they're probably going to have to throw the ball some.
Yeah.
That doesn't bother me.
It'd be
a great deal.
shocking to me if they're not the 2 out there and 2 receiver sets,
Yeah.
like every time now.
Looking at now, we can average almost 6,700. So if we do
How
go,
many spots do we need again?
we got 2 running backs and a flex.
Okay. Let's find a back we like.
All right. So Henry is 8,200. Mixon is 7,700. Pacheco 5,700. Warren is 55. Najee Harris 54. Kareem Hunt 52.
I'm not real intrigued with Mixon or Pacheco. So it kind of leaves me with Warren.
Well, we got to start 2 of these guys.
I know. You think Henry goes crazy? The running backs, none of them are jumping out at
I don't think he does. I kind of lean. If I had to start one of the pay-up backs, I would go with Mixon.
Would you?
And here's why. He has 48 targets in the passing game.
Yeah.
The other guys do, like Henry does not. Pacheco,
No.
he doesn't average that kind of.
I mean, just doing Ravens research, Running backs score points on them. Actually, come to think of it,
They do give up catches to the running back.
that's what I mean in receiving.
Yeah.
I should have said that. I was thinking about something else here too, because the Kansas City's allowed the fewest fantasy points to running backs this year.
Yeah.
And it's brutal. They haven't allowed more than 52 receiving yards to a running back all year.
Yeah.
So maybe I don't like Warren as much as I thought.
Yeah.
No one's had over 30.
I think
since week
Mixon.
5.
I think Mixon is the play there.
He never leaves the field.
He's always on the field.
Right. They don't run the ball well, but that doesn't mean he doesn't get in the end zone.
Yeah.
Right. And they'll probably rely on him without Dell in there a little more too.
And then
Yeah, I'm kind of off Warren and Najee.
the pivot then. So you got Henry at 8,200, Pacheco at 5,700, Warren at 5,500, Harris at 5,400.
Do we know that Pacheco's that much more used than Hunt?
He wasn't last week.
I know. I mean, it
Like,
seems
and
like
Hunt's the goal line.
he's
back.
a goal line back, and
I don't think he's particularly good.
I don't think he's good at all, but that doesn't matter.
Yeah. Now, if we went with, say, a guy like, where was I looking at here? So P. Ryan last week got 3 catches for 50 yards.
Mm-hmm. He had one long one, though.
It was a 36-yarder,
Yeah,
but it was still a 36-yarder.
yeah. He has to be super cheap for me to be
If that allowed us to pay up and say, go get a guy like, let's see what this looks like. So if
I mean, the fact that we don't really like any of these backs, I think we go cheap, and
So if we put P. Ryan in at 4,000,
we afford an expensive flex.
our flex could then be Nico Collins.
I say I'd love to get Nico. Like, I'd rather pay it for Nico than Henry. I don't have a problem with that.
That would get us Nico Collins as a flex.
That's fine, because there's no backs I'm standing on the table for. So if we kind of have to punt a running back, so be it.
Now that also means that we have to play the Texans defense,
Right.
which I don't necessarily love, but
No. Sacks is their thing, and Lamar's hard to sack. Yeah, so what?
so right now it's Lamar Jackson, Joe Mixon, Samaje Perine, Hollywood Brown, Calvin Austin, George Pickens, Dalton Schultz, Nico Collins in the Texans defense.
We got a couple big hitters, though. I mean, Nico, Nico Pickens, Lamar, and Mixon. And then it's a stars and scrub roster.
Yeah.
And Schultz isn't bad.
If you get anything out of the ancillary guys,
Right. Austin catches
and
one.
Scrubs is a
I mean, they were a lot cheaper, obviously, right.
I wouldn't mind getting off the Texans defense.
Where can we skimp
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
tight end?
The only other,
I mean,
the only other
was a
pivot
little
is
cheaper, but does that 200
that gives us
us anything?
that then gives us 3
The whole we think
Steelers.
Steelers are going to throw for 400 yards in the game. I do not.
We could pivot to Likely at 3,500.
That's not bad.
I don't hate it.
No.
He had 3 catches.
That's
for
enough to get us a different defense, though, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I really don't like Lamar versus our defense. I don't want our quarterback and defense squaring off.
So if we do that, that leaves us $600, and that would get us a pivot to, well, we could get the Ravens defense.
I'd say probably anyone you want.
Yeah, we can get any defense we want.
Is the Ravens the one you would pick?
The Ravens are the most expensive. They're $3,200
But if you had if they were all the same price, would you pick them?
against that offensive line. Yes.
I think so too. I don't love that they're on the road, but
I don't love that either. And it's a short week, and they
right.
just beat the Steelers, so it might be we're celebrating a little bit, but
that O-line's bad.
it's really beaten up.
Yeah.
You like that?
I don't want to do the Texans D.
I don't either. I think that's the worst matchup. They could get 500 yards put on them.
And it might be by Lamar, and where you just cancel each other out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, so
I don't think there's a big difference between Likely and Schultz.
I think Schultz will catch more passes. Likely he's probably more likely to catch a touchdown.
Mm-hmm. Or a big play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that gets us Lamar, Joe Mixon, Samaje Perine. That wouldn't be there wasn't a pivot, though, that
I don't like the
thrilled
backs.
me. Yeah.
Right.
Hollywood Brown, Calvin Austin, George Pickens, Isaiah Likely, Nico Collins, and the Ravens defense.
I'm fine with it.
Given that, we
we
spent
have a lot to pick from.
not a lot
I
to
don't
pick
think you're
from.
ever going to be like smitten in love with these kind of lineups.
No, that's just the way it is.
I mean,
you're going to have some pay downs and pay ups.
Ryan in our lineup,
But we got Lamar.
Yeah, and Nico.
and Nico.
I mean, they're the two biggest dogs out there.
And Mixon, I think, is going to get volume.
He always touches the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if he'll have a lot of success on the ground, but he's going to get carries. He's
Yeah.
going to get every one of their carries.
He's certainly going to get any goal line carries that they have. All right. I'm going to lock it in.
Okay.
And, well, we'll go from there. Again, that is Lamar Jackson at quarterback, Joe Mixon, and Samaje Perine at running back, Calvin Austin.
What do we need out of him? 2 or 3 catches?
Yeah.
I mean, that's worth the money, then,
Yeah.
give or take.
Yeah, as long as Lamar has a Lamar game.
Well, yeah.
And Nico Collins has, Perine and Mixon at running back, Calvin Austin, Hollywood Brown, and George Pickens at wide receiver, Isaiah Likely at tight end, Nico Collins in the flex spot, and the Ravens defense.
If you were a casino in Vegas, what would you have the over-under targets for Pickens in this game?
I'm going to
So
say
the 50% bet over and under.
I'm going to put it at 7.5.
I was thinking 8.5.
I'm going to say 7.5.
Okay, 8.5 was the number that popped in my head. So we'd be in okay shape with that.
Yeah, if he gets,
especially if one of them is an end zone target, or
Yeah, if he gets 6 catches or 5 catches for 80 yards, one of them's a touchdown.
I'll guarantee that they throw 2 or 3 slants or screens or
Those again, if they're going to show up, they're going to show that it's going to be that
Right.
15-yard fade on against press man, and maybe he breaks a tackle and scoots down the sideline.
I was even meaning just like easy completion that's maybe only a 2-yard gain, but we're going to get the ball in his hands in the first quarter early.
Yeah.
You haven't been here in a while. Welcome back.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt. He's not going to be ignored.
No. He'll be
No.
featured.
Yeah. So, yeah, we'll see how that works out for us.
Okay. And I don't think Austin's going away.
No, I don't think he is either. I think,
Right. I think he's here to stay as a contributor.
Yeah. I think he gets
5 targets.
4 catches in this game, something along those lines. And
Probably one of them will be long.
Yeah.
Target at least.
yeah. So, yeah, I like it.
Okay.
And I think Nico Collins could get 12 targets.
Which game is a higher over under? Do you know off the top of your head?
I
would bet the other one.
Yeah, I think it's the Houston.
Yeah.
So we're well invested in that game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like our
We
lineup.
got guys on both sides of it, so
Yeah.
not bad.
Glad we got out of the Texans D.
Yeah,
I mean, Lamar and Nico could be monsters.
could be. Wish Lamar was throwing to Nico. That was that would really
Right,
blow
right.
it up, but it is what it is. Anyways, let's get to another break. He is the Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. And, of course, you can hear The Drive every Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. right here on these very airwaves, or you can download the Steelers mobile app, and you can also watch or listen to the show on YouTube. No show tomorrow because, obviously, it's Christmas Day, and the Steelers play. So we will. You'll be able to hear Matt and I both on the pregame show. I'll do the pregame show. You won't do any of that tomorrow. I get the the whole 2 hours.
I'll just do my hour before 15-minute hit with Jerry and Triv.
Yeah, I'll also be doing some pregame tomorrow with KDKA.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
For their pregame show. It starts at noon, I believe. So
Oh, look at you.
there you go. So, anyways. Let's get to a break here. Again, he is Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley, and this is The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network. And we are back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And, Matt, it's too early in the morning for the NFL to have its power rankings up for today.
Yeah.
So I'm looking here at ESPN's power rankings. It's a little different. And,
Yeah, so what?
so they go through their power rankings. They also have a Rookie of the Year for each team
That's interesting.
listed. So let's go through theirs. At 32, they have the Giants.
Clearly at this point. I mean, they are.
The Saints should be pushing that hardly.
Ooh. Yeah. Boy, the Giants have been badder longer.
Badder longer.
Yeah.
I guess the Saints did just beat them a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. But boy, that was miserable last night.
Miserable.
Neighbors is the Rookie of the Year.
Easy. That's a slam dunk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least they have something to get excited about.
Yeah,
Well,
I
he's
guess.
exciting.
Yeah. At 31, the Raiders. The Raiders
Last
right
night's
now.
performance was pretty bad.
The Raiders right now are better than a couple of teams. that are
Yeah,
on here.
they played the Jags tight.
Now they did lose 10 games in a row before winning that game this week. So they've earned this, but they're
At least they have a good rookie of the year, too.
yeah, Brock Bowers.
Bowers and Neighbors. Okay, at least that's something for these
Which
crappy teams. Right.
you were picking in the top 10 last year.
Yeah, you
better have something good coming out
You're
of that.
really miserable if you don't have something like that.
At 30, the 3-12 Jacksonville Jaguars, and their rookie of the year is an easy one as well,
it's
Brian
another good one,
Thomas.
right, and all these skill guys. Okay.
Where would the Steelers be at right now if they had drafted Brian Thomas? I'm not down on Troy Falatano. I think he's going to be a really good foot player.
It's funny you brought that up because Tom and I had like a 10-minute conversation about this because I remember being on the air. There was two things I really remember about being on the air during last year's draft that I said exact words when in the first round and the second round when Falatanu was there. I'm like, that's the pick. When Frazier was there, that's the pick.
Right.
But of course, we had the conversation of, well, who's next? Mine was Thomas and Adonai Mitchell, and then you wouldn't have taken Wilson in the third round. I mean, there's obviously a ripple effect here, but if by chance Frazier would have went the pick before you or if Falatanu went the pick before you, I would have went with Thomas.
Quinion Mitchell would have looked good.
Yeah, right. Again, both those guys have been very, very useful. I mean, I'd probably take Frazier, of course, over Mitchell times 1,000. But for this year, you would have liked to have one of those big downfield receivers.
Yeah.
It's considering your first-round pick's injured.
But at that point, you still didn't know you were going to get shut out.
No.
Trying to acquire a receiver.
There was a lot of the trade candidates at the time, too.
Yeah.
Right. And you wouldn't have drafted Roman. Maybe you'd have drafted a lineman there. Of course, it's all different.
At 29, the Tennessee Titans, their rookie of the year is Jarvis Brownlee Jr.
He's actually been quite good. I mean, it's a nice find in the mid-rounds. The Saints should have been mentioned by now, by the way. But, I mean, maybe this was mostly written and then before kickoff.
You can still adjust.
You can still cut and paste.
Yeah. Because at 28 are the Cleveland Browns. And here's where their trouble begins.
I was going to say, who's their guy?
Mike Hall Jr., who just started his first game.
Played.
He started his first game against the Bengals last week, and they lost 24-6. There is part of your ongoing problem.
Yeah.
With the trade for Deshaun Watson, you don't have any high draft picks, and so your rookies of the year.
I would say last year's rookie of the year was probably bad too.
Are dirt.
Yeah, right. I mean, who are the building blocks on cheap rookie contracts that are first round talents?
Yeah, they're going to be down here for a long time.
Yeah.
That's why Myles Garrett's asking, what's our long term plan here? He may not want to be there.
I think there's a couple teams like that. We threw out Garrett Wilson yesterday.
Yeah.
There's a couple of these teams. The long-term plan is not pretty. Saints.
Myles Garrett's like, hey, I'm not in this for a rebuild. No.
He's in my prime years, right? I mean, sometimes you have to be selfish about it.
And they might be actually smart to move him.
I thought that. I mean, what would have the Lions given them at the trade deadline? If I was Lions, I'd be like, I'll open with 2 first-round picks because I know the first one's going to be late, and I hope the second one's really late, and they'd be the best team in the league.
Yeah. At 27, the New England Patriots. But again,
these
teams are better than what the Saints are putting out there right now.
Yeah, and that's a little kind to the Patriots too. I mean, they're not very good.
No.
But the teams you mentioned,
they were the most competitive.
Lately.
Yeah. At 26, the Jets.
We're being really kind to the Saints, but anyway, there's a Saints blind spot that we've already passed. But anyway, who's the rookie of the year for the Saints?
Olu Fashanu.
That's who I was going to throw out because I don't know of anyone else that stood out. He wasn't an opening day starter.
No, and he's not been great.
No, they don't have a great one.
At 25, still not the Saints.
Mm-hmm.
The Chicago Bears.
It's a quarterback.
Yeah, Caleb Williams is the easy rookie of the year.
They'd be a 10-point favorite in New Orleans.
Oh, my God, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know about in New Orleans because they play like garbage on the road.
Well, yeah, that's a good point about that specific team.
They haven't won a road game in like 3 years.
Right. In Anchorage, Alaska, they'd be a 10-point favorite. Right.
At 24, we're still no Saints.
Oh.
What is going on here?
They're really bad.
The Carolina Panthers would destroy the Saints right now.
Saints, right.
Kill them. Their rookie of the year is Trayvon Wallace, the linebacker.
Okay. I'll have to look into him. I couldn't come up with one off the top of my head.
Yeah. He's on injured reserve for the rest of the season because of a
I might
shoulder
give it to
injury.
Coker. I mean, I don't think it's Leggett.
Yeah, Wallace.
I don't know I don't know Wallace's resume.
He's sixth on the team with 64 tackles.
Okay. Okay.
Coker hasn't done a ton, but
No.
Wallace broke into the starting lineup in week 2 when Shaq Thompson got hurt.
Okay.
And just recently got hurt. So
Okay. At least he has more snaps.
yeah, he started 8 out of 13 games for a bad defense. Yeah. Oh, and here they are.
The Saints.
The 23, the 5-10 Saints that if they played 25, they could play 100 more games.
Against the Packers?
Against anybody right now, and I don't know that I would pick them to win. They could play the Giants right now with what they're putting on the field, and I would pick.
That's a coin flip.
I would pick the Giants.
Considering the quarterbacks and pass catchers.
Neighbors would at least give them and Tracy, and they got some.
They got better weapons.
Yeah,
no doubt. Fuaga is probably the rookie.
He is. It's Talisi Fuaga.
Yeah, he's been a solid left tackle for him.
At 22. The San Francisco 49ers.
It's about where they're at. I think that's fair. Pooney's the rookie of the year.
Yeah, Dominic Pooney is the rookie of the year. At 21, the Indianapolis Colts. They still have a chance to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
They have a good chance to make the playoffs.
Would you have them ahead of like Miami or Cincy, though? I would not.
No, but let's see who's
Arizona? They're the best they're better than Arizona. Well, let's not get too far ahead.
Let's not get too far ahead, but
who's their rookie of the year?
Late 2.
Yeah.
There's some obvious ones here.
Yeah. He's been good.
At 20 is Arizona, as I mentioned.
And I would have the Colts ahead of Arizona.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
They're just too up and down. They just lost to the Panthers.
Right. Harrison?
Yeah.
Not quite as good as you wanted, but it's it's still their best rookie.
At 19. Who would you have here?
Whoa.
This is being a little unkind to this team.
Dallas.
Surprised
I got that. They've been pretty good lately.
They're 7-8 now, playing without.
I don't think I'd make coaching changes. You get Dak coming back. I mean, you spent a lot of the year without Parsons or Dak.
Yeah.
If you're
and DeMarcus Lawrence.
And Lawrence, amongst others, right?
Yeah. With no running game for most of the season.
Zach Martin's kind of fallen off. Your stars have not been what you're paying for necessarily.
Yeah.
Rookie of the year.
Cooper Beebe, the center.
Yeah, okay.
He's been fine.
He's fine, yeah. I mean, they found a center in the 3rd or 4th round or whatever.
At 18, Tampa Bay.
It's a rough one.
I still have Tampa Bay ahead of Atlanta.
I think they're a better team.
Yeah.
I don't know if they'll win the division, but I think they're a better team.
Yeah.
Which is what power ranks are all about to me. Is it McMillan?
Nope, it's Bucky Irving.
Oh, it's got to be Irving, yeah. He's the best back.
Yeah.
He'd be my rookie back, yeah.
At 17, the Miami Dolphins.
I'd have Tampa ahead of them. I wouldn't have the Colts ahead of them.
They're going to lose. I think they lose the last 2 games. They could lose to Cleveland this week. I think Jameis Winston's back in the starting lineup this week.
Because of injury.
Yeah.
I think the only reason they pulled him is because they didn't want to win.
Right.
Now they kind of have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I might take the Browns in that game.
In Cleveland?
Yeah. Then they got another weather game. They're either in New England or the Jets.
Then New York,
Jets, yeah. Who's their rookie of the year?
This one's a little tougher, but it's outside linebacker Chop Robinson.
Oh, yeah. He's been good. Second half of the season's been quite good for him.
Yeah. At 16, we got here.
Bengals?
No. Seattle. Bengals. I'm sorry.
I'm not sure
your
defense
can't be that bad.
Right.
Just because you beat Dorian Thompson-Robinson and the Browns.
As I say, I'm not all of a sudden like,
the defense is fixed.
Right?
No, not at all. Seattle would destroy. I don't know if that destroys a big. Seattle's
better than the Bengals.
Seattle would beat the Bengals right now. Their defense would do enough, and their offense
is quite good.
Their offense isn't equal to what Cincinnati's is,
no.
but it would tear up that Bengals defense.
They'd score a lot of points.
They would score a lot of points.
Is Murphy the rookie?
Tyrese Knight, linebacker.
They like him. He's been playing a ton.
He's the guy they got rid of all their other linebackers for. We got to get this guy in the starting lineup.
Yeah, and then they went and traded for Jones.
Yeah.
They just redid their linebackers, right?
Yeah. At 15 is Cincinnati.
Okay. That's fair. Mims
is the rookie of the year.
Yeah, he's been fine.
But that's too high on the Bengals.
I agree. I'm not sure where I'd rank Bengals, Dolphins, Colts.
I think the Dolphins are better than the Bengals right now, too. I think their defense...
Their defense is noticeably better.
Yeah.
I'd probably have the Colts third of the 3.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
Those fringe AFC teams.
Yeah, I'm with you. At 14, the Atlanta Falcons. I am not ready to say that just because you beat the Giants, you're back.
I wouldn't have them that far ahead of Tampa. I would have Tampa ahead of them.
Yeah.
But that's a pretty big gap. That's like 4 or 5 spots.
Yeah.
You can't give it to Penix after one game.
That's who their pick was, Michael Penix. Come on.
I'm not sure who I would pick now. I'm thinking about it.
Well, Ruka Rorhoro, he's only played in 6 games.
Yeah.
Third-round pick Braylon Trice tore his ACL in the preseason.
So he got hurt early.
Linebacker J.T. Bertrand, running back Jace McClellan, and wide receiver Casey Washington have all been injured as well. So maybe that is it.
Well, wasn't there a year like the Steelers gave it to like Patrick Bailey or
Patrick Bailey won it 1 year as a special, but
there has to be a special team.
They didn't play rookies at all at that time.
Yeah.
Harry Newsome won the original Joe Green Rookie of the Year Great Performance Award.
There has to be a core special teamer or a gunner or somebody on that team
who's actually played more snaps than Michael Penix.
Right. Maybe by the end of the year, if he takes you to the playoffs, I could give it to him because the rest of the class is so bad. That's a really terrible class.
But
if you got starting quarterback,
they're all hurt. I mean, you just don't know.
Right.
13, the Denver Broncos.
Fine.
And Bo Nix is the obvious.
Sure.
That's not even a question.
Right.
12.
You have the Chargers over the Broncos?
You have to. They beat them twice.
I guess, yeah.
They beat them twice head-to-head.
Yeah, it's enough.
12 is the Rams.
Okay. Would have to be Verse.
Jared Verse is their Rookie of the Year.
Mm-hmm. I'd have the Rams over the Chargers.
Well, the Chargers are next. So
okay.
That's close.
McConkey
is the Rookie of the Year. The Chargers, yeah. I mean, Joe Alt's a good candidate. Would have been a good candidate on some of these other teams.
No doubt.
But McConkey's been the guy.
Not a bad
we kind of thought he was.
All.
He leads his Chargers right now with 69 receptions, 94 targets, and 960 receiving yards. I think I went on record in the preseason when he got drafted by them saying he would catch 90 balls or something like that this year. I thought he'd have more targets. 94 is a good number, though.
He missed a little bit of time, too.
Yeah.
No, he's been great.
Yeah. That was a perfect fit for that offense.
Who's the linebacker they drafted that's
Tareeb Still.
What's that?
No, I'm sorry.
They drafted the kid out of Michigan, but he hasn't been great. Their best linebacker, I think, is from last year.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I was trying to think. Was he a rookie?
Yeah, he's not a rookie, no.
Their corners have been contributors as rookies.
Yeah, Tareeb Still is the corner that's played. Yeah.
But not a bad rookie class.
No, not at all.
It's a good building block.
10 is the Houston Texans. I might have the Chargers ahead and Rams ahead of the Texans right now.
Like, if the Steelers lose out and go to Houston, I'm picking the Steelers.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't protect at all. Who's their Rookie of the Year?
Kamari Lassiter.
Okay. They didn't have a first-round pick.
Yeah. He's been
Side
fine.
note, I didn't realize this, but every team has their first-round pick this year.
Wow.
All 32 have their originals.
Interesting.
Yeah. That never happens at this stage.
Never. That won't end up that way.
No, of course not.
No,
but right.
At 9, the Washington Commanders. Also an obvious Rookie of the Year.
Obvious. He's going to win the award.
Yeah.
I'm fine with him being that high, though.
Yeah.
I thought they were going to fall off about a month ago, but right when the Steelers were beating them, and Daniels had the ribs. I'm like, this is kind of the beginning of the end. But no.
They really should have lost that game to the Eagles on Sunday.
I'm going to be excited to bet against them in the first round of the playoffs. Don't get me wrong. But
they were very fortunate that, there were some injuries there.
Mm-hmm.
At 8, the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I think that's fair. I mean, you've lost 2 in a row to good teams. Rookie of the Year is Frazier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was some talk.
Second? Wilson? Peyton?
It's either Wilson or McCormick.
McCormick's played more snaps.
McCormick's played more. He's a starter.
Yeah.
Wilson's, I get it. Wilson's been an impactful player at times.
But he's probably your third snap guy.
I think he'll play a key role. I think actually all 3 of those rookies will play a key role on Wednesday against the.
I'd rank them that way too.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay. Be nice to see what Roman or the first round pick could have done. But that's the way it goes.
That's the way it goes with injuries. We've seen some of these other teams that dealing with. If your first round pick gets hurt and you still have guys, you had a pretty good.
Pretty good draft.
Yeah,
right.
Especially if you're up on this end of the spectrum as opposed to the bottom.
I mean, Frazier's a slam dunk that for most of these teams would have been the pick, but Wilson or McCormick isn't worse than a lot of the names we mentioned.
No, some of
right,
I mean,
that's your second and third
McCormick
option?
is, Cooper Beebe or something like that.
He's not much different than Pooney or, or those guys, yeah. I'd take him over Beebe.
At 7 is Green Bay.
Yeah, they were pretty dominant last night.
Yeah.
I would have them ahead of the Steelers right now. Oh, it's got to be the linebacker.
Edgerrin Cooper.
Yeah, he's really come on strong. I didn't think he'd be as impactful as a rookie, but he makes a lot of big plays.
Yeah. 6 is the Ravens.
Okay. I got no problem with that.
Who do you think their rookie of the year is?
Drawing a blank.
It's Roger Rosengarten.
I was about to say it'd probably be Wiggins, but neither was blowing my doors off.
No, I think they're fine.
Yeah.
They're not. But they both are, as we said when the Ravens drafted those two guys, they just don't profile as Ravens.
As much as
they're finesse players.
As much as I like Zay Flowers too, they're not big physical guys. You know, like for their respective positions, several of their really early picks lately have not been AFC North guys. You know what I mean? They're not bruisers.
Yeah. Who would you have at 5 then?
All right, who's left on the board here? We got the Bills, Eagles, Lions, Vikings, and Chiefs.
Yeah.
They're probably not, but I'd have Kansas City 5th.
I would too.
Yeah.
They have Minnesota.
No Rodney Dangerfield, man.
No respect for Minnesota.
I'm really coming around on them. I don't think they can win the Super Bowl. I think they're pretty darn good.
Darnold would have to go on an incredible heater.
Yeah.
And he might be on the heater right now.
It'd be like the Flacco postseason heater.
That would be even more surprising, though, than Flacco. Because Flacco had shown a level of consistency.
He was the 10th best quarterback in the league. I mean, he was.
Darnold has never been that.
No. But who's the rookie?
Kicker Will Reichard.
Oh, I would not have got that one. I'd say they trade up for McCarthy, and it's obviously not him. Yeah, okay.
If you're them, do you consider signing Darnold after this season and maybe making McCarthy? Hey, you all loved him in last year's draft. Looking at this year's quarterback group, maybe somebody wants to take a chance.
Right.
Maybe you don't get a 1 for him, but maybe you get a 2 and a conditional.
I don't know that you don't get a 1. I mean, a team like Tennessee or the Jets or the Raiders.
Somebody it would have to be somebody that's going to get shut out in the quarterback market.
It's not going to pick in the top 3-ish.
But you'd also have to have somebody
that
loved
foolish organizations out there.
You'd have to have somebody that loved McCarthy so much that they were willing to do that. I think you could get a 2 and a conditional 2. That could be a 1.
Conditional stuff would make sense
next year if he becomes your starter. Let's say he starts 12 games next year. That 2 next year turns into a 1. Something like that.
Something like that would make sense. I would certainly I'd have a hard time just letting Darnold walk and get a 3rd-round comp pick for him, and that's it.
Because he's still young enough that
he's very young.
And your receivers are great.
Yeah, proven you can win with them.
13-2.
I mean, at a
do you
minimum,
really move on from the quarterback that took you to 13-2?
Right.
It might get you the number 1 overall seed in the play.
Right. I mean,
you can't do it.
If you win a playoff game, I mean, even if they lose out, it's still a successful year.
Yeah.
I mean, I think at a minimum, I franchise them, and I say, I'll listen to offers for either one of my quarterbacks.
That's a way to approach it as well.
And
of course, then if you franchise him, you're paying Sam Darnold $40+ million
for 1 year, though. I mean, you tell Daniel Jones to beat.
I don't know what their cap situation is, but
I don't either.
Yeah,
I can't just let him walk for nothing.
I can't. You just can't do it. It's too important a position.
Yeah, this is a really long. Because there's a lot of different sides to it. This is a long conversation.
Yeah,
but more and more, I just think it's easier to make that decision.
Yeah, you just can't move on from him. He could get $45 million on the open market.
Maybe more. Like if you're the Titans, what would you pay him? Desperate team.
Might be a mistake. It might be a Scott Mitchell-like mistake.
No doubt.
No
doubt. I mean, Cousins some of these guys.
Scott Mitchell's actually the perfect. He didn't have the pedigree of Darnold coming into it, but he had that 1 year replacing Dan Marino, and the Lions said, "Oh, hey, we got our quarterback of the future," and just opened up the coffers and
bad,
not good at all.
Yeah.
But
their rookie of the year is a kicker, though. Huh?
Yeah, the rookie of the year is a kicker. He's made 19 to 22 field goal attempts.
Okay. So I hadn't been any other candidates.
Yeah. At 4, I should say, the Buffalo Bills. I'm not ready to say
I'd have the
that.
Chiefs lower than that.
Yeah, I'd have they smashed the Chiefs when they beat them.
All right.
Smash, they beat them by 9, but
Right, but
they handled
They
them.
beat them bad.
Yeah.
Bills rookie Coleman.
Nope. Ray Davis.
I think they have equal cases.
Yeah, he's been Davis
I
hasn't
like
missed
Davis a lot.
Davis hasn't missed any time.
Yeah,
Coleman
yeah.
has. I think
Okay.
that kind of tips it. He has 369 yards and 14
Awe-inspiring
catches.
rookie class.
No, not a great one.
No,
At 3,
not the Chiefs.
the Eagles.
Ooh, I think that'd be my 1. Eagles rookie has to be Mitchell, but DeJean's saying, "Hey, what about me?"
Yeah, DeJean's been good as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like both of those players in the draft a
That
lot.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good class.
That's really solid.
They'd be my 1.
Yeah, I'm not going to bump them too greatly for losing it on a last-second
let's
touchdown
pick
with your
it.
backup quarterback.
Right. And I'm counting them as if Hurts is a starter.
Yeah.
For this exercise.
At 2 is Detroit.
Okay. I mean, Kansas City has 1 loss. I understand them being 1, but they'd be 5 for me.
Yeah. Their rookie.
I'm trying to think.
Their rookie is Terry and Arnold, who is
He's been real up and down. To say the
Oh, my
least.
goodness,
More
yeah.
down.
yeah.
I can't come up with anybody else off the top of my head, though.
No, I can't
I
either.
mean, they drafted defense heavy, and
Yeah.
defense is all hurt.
Right.
Yeah.
And for the Kansas City Chiefs, who are at number 1, it's Xavier Worthy.
I think it has to be. I can't think of a candidate that's even right there with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when you look at it that way, in terms of the rookies of the year, I mean, the Steelers draft class holds up pretty well.
Real well, especially without the first round. I mean, they're only one that.
If Fautanu had played all season long, which was the plan,
That's what I was saying.
he's probably your rookie of the year.
How many of the 32 didn't really have access to their first round pick? I mean, there's like the Vikings, the Steelers. There's not many
Yeah.
that you at least didn't consider, or your first pick.
Yeah.
You know, Lassiter was. They didn't have a first rounder.
Cleveland
Coleman
didn't
didn't have a
have
first rounder. Right.
Mike Hall for Cleveland.
That's maybe the worst one.
Might be the worst one that was on there.
Vikes
Other-
are bad.
his kicker
The kicker was bad.
But
and
the
they were-
kicker at least does something.
At least you got a kicker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mike Hall couldn't even get on the field for a lot of those games. There was a question whether he was going to be on the team after he had his incident in the preseason.
I can't remember, but I think the Browns were the last team to make their first pick.
Yeah.
I think they had the
Yeah.
and it shows.
Yeah. That's
They-
what happens when you
got to
make,
find a diamond in the rough in the 4th round or something.
that's,
You know?
you wonder if, because of what happened to the Browns with losing all those picks, if it makes teams a little more gun shy to trade multiple first-round draft picks for a quarterback.
For anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I mean, there aren't many instances in the last 10 years, Jamal Adams and Cooper and those guys.
Typically
I mean,
doesn't
usually
work
you
out
lose.
real well.
Right.
Give
Khalil
up
Mack, you
multiple.
might have won, you know,
Yeah.
but right. In general, it's not good business.
Yeah, absolutely. But
Pick-
let's get
first
to a
round picks
break.
are gold.
We got to come back and pick the Steelers game.
Seems so early in the week, but all right, I'm
Yeah,
ready.
I hope you have your mind wrapped around this and a score picked out, but we will do that when we return. He is Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Ho, ho, ho.
Oh,
It is now time for Matt and I to pick the results of the Steelers game against the Kansas City Chiefs at 1 o'clock, Christmas Day, Acrisure Stadium. Be there or be square. I think there'll be a lot of people there.
I'm curious. I have no clue what it would be like. I mean, is it an easy ticket? Is it an expensive
Oh,
ticket?
it's not. It's been an expensive ticket.
I mean, I'm
Like,
sure it
went
has
quickly.
been, but people are going to. My only question
It's been a
is,
great stocking stuffer.
It'd be amazing.
Hey, and by the way, you're going to the Steeler game.
Especially if you don't like your spouse or whatever. You just want them out of the house for Christmas.
Let's all go to the-
Everyone would be so much happier if Matt's gone today. You know, right?
That's probably the case every day.
Yeah, right. I didn't know. I mean, just because it's a weird day. You know?
Yeah.
I'm sure there won't be many Kansas City fans there.
Wouldn't think.
I mean, would you travel? I mean, if this was in Kansas City, you think
That's
there'd be
a-
many Steeler fans would be there?
They're one of those teams now, though, that have reached a point where they're kind of like the Yankees or the Patriots
Oh,
were for
yeah.
a while. Like, you get all these bandwagon fans that jump on and
Which makes sense. I mean, people that are younger, you know, that pick a team, you know, like
Yeah.
Dallas in the 70s
that's
or
the
whatever.
so when I
The
was a
Steelers got
kid,
a lot of them in the 70s.
when I was a kid, one of my heroes just died over the weekend.
Ricky Henderson.
Ricky Henderson.
Yeah, I remember you were an A's
I was
guy,
a
yeah.
huge Oakland A's fan when I was a kid growing up because of Ricky Henderson.
They were
Not
a fun team in that
Not
age,
because
yeah.
they had won anything,
Right.
but it was great
They
when
weren't
they
the Yankees
when they
or the-
finally did win something.
Mhm.
You know, and so I felt like had
So you
followed
were
up.
before, like, the Bash Brothers.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah.
mean, you were, like, late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah, when Billy Ball started, they had the
They were a flashy, fun team, though.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And Henderson was a blast.
Yeah, same thing with, I was a Detroit Pistons fan because I was an Isaiah Thomas fan as a college player. And when he went to the NBA, okay, that's my team. So again, when they won, that was
so you liked him as a college
my late teens were fantastic because the A's were winning championships and the Pistons were winning championships, and I felt like I had gotten in on the ground floor.
Yeah.
I was not a bandwagon fan.
You didn't buy high.
No, I bought low.
Low, and it went up. Nice.
So that was great.
Yeah, I was Pittsburgh, of course.
Yeah, well, yeah. I picked the players and then followed the players. But anyway, so Steelers and Chiefs, you picked first last week, so I will give my pick in this game first this week. You have to control Mahomes on third down.
Oh, yeah.
You have to win first and second down to get them into third and longs. If you look at it, he has 87 completions on third downs this season. 73 of them have gone for first down.
Wow. That adds up, man.
14 times he has thrown the ball on third downs and has not resulted in a first down.
Wow.
That's how you're over 50% on third downs.
No question. It's not like they have a great running game.
No. He has run the ball 23 times on third down, has resulted in 12 first downs.
Yeah. So
you have to control Mahomes.
Creates first downs.
On third. So what is that? That's 85 conversions on 110 attempts from Mahomes on third downs.
I'm sure some stats nerd can figure this out, but is that one of the best seasons for a third down quarterback?
Has to be. Because his numbers on the other downs are just okay.
Yeah, right. They're like way below his average.
He also has 10 touchdown passes on third downs.
Mm.
So his passer rating on third down is 109.2. You have to get them behind the chains. You have to.
Yeah, or just make plays on third downs.
Or just make plays on third downs to get off the field. The Steelers have been all season long, with the exception of the Eagles game, really good on third downs. Even last week against Baltimore. Baltimore was 4 of 10 on third down.
Yeah, both teams.
You'll take that. If you hold the Chiefs to 40% on third downs, you'll take that all day long.
Yep. No, I think that's a huge key, and I think your pass rush has a lot to do with it.
Pass rush has to get
your corners aren't going to be stellar.
No, you have to get home in those situations. I think the Steelers will kind of enjoy being back home again in front of their home crowd. I expect the crowd to be amped up for this game. I get the Steelers winning this one. I said 6 weeks ago I'm picking the Steelers in this game. I'm sticking with that. I think they win this 24-20.
Wow. I win 24-23.
Okay.
Yeah, and frankly, I've been going back and forth. I think Kansas City's a better team, but I don't see 3 losses in a row, and I do think the home cooking thing is big.
Short work week for them.
I don't like these road teams on Christmas, either one of them, to be honest with you. I just think that's a tough predicament physically, mentally,
no Chris Jones is going to be massive.
I think Jones has a ton to do with it. Now, Mahomes and company could certainly win a one-score game for the 17th time in a row.
Yeah.
No doubt about
Remember,
it. I don't feel
Chris Jones was holding out last year.
Yeah.
To start the season. And Detroit rolled in there and beat them in the opener. And they kept showing Chris Jones sitting on up in the stands, and you could just see him counting the dollars as like,
he's the second most important Chief.
Yeah.
I got no doubt in my mind. I mean, they didn't have any hesitation. Should we keep Snead or Jones? I'll keep Jones. I mean, like, he's a difference maker. Do you think he won't play?
I don't think he does.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we're recording this Tuesday morning, Christmas Eve morning.
They haven't made any declarations yet, but I would be highly shocked if he.
I mean, if he
plays, didn't practice either day.
10 snaps.
Yeah, you're just going to tell him, hey, Chris, you're 31 years old.
Right.
We need you in the playoffs.
We still got a chance to win without you.
We don't want you to. Yeah, we don't. We got a 1-game cushion or 2-game cushion here. Like, if we lose this game, it's not the end of the world. But if we lose you, it is.
Plus, you can play in Week 18 and still get him a rest on both sides of that Week 18 game. I would not play him. I mean, but I don't know how they'll look at it. I don't have great reasons to pick the Steelers. I mean, this one's a little bit more of a hunch than they got this matchup and this matchup. But I do love the D-line, but especially the edge matchup quite a bit. Mahomes' a tough guy to sack.
Huge advantage.
I think that's a huge advantage. I think that's as big as an advantage on paper as there is in this game from either side.
And the big thing that I was watching from Mahomes last week against the Texans, not so much his running straightforward stuff, which he's obviously still capable of doing, but when you have that high ankle sprain, how do you move in the pocket? How do you cut on something like that? And I didn't see that from him.
No. I mean, he does accelerate well, but he wasn't great in terms of juking.
Yeah, there was none of that,
like
and the movement in the pocket from side to side just wasn't there.
Yeah. I'm sure he's feeling it to some degree. Again, I don't know how they're going to protect the edges. I mean, I think that's going to be a real problem. And I just think it's a proud football team, and Tomlin at home on a standalone game. I know it's not a Monday nighter, but it kind of fits the bill.
Their home record on Thursday games, which is obviously a short work week, much better than it is on the road.
I know road's
it's
an
night
issue.
and day.
Yeah.
Road is the issue.
Yeah, road's
on these
the
short
issue.
work weeks, and for most teams it is.
That's not uncommon. Again, I don't have a ton of matchups that I love, but I'm kind of just trusting Cam and TJ and Russ and Tomlin. Not that the Chiefs don't have those kind of guys either. I mean, they have winners and professionals and Hall of Famers and all that stuff too. I just don't love the emotional letdown playing away from home, bodies sore.
Well,
on
I
Christmas
think getting Pickens
situation.
back is huge as well.
And no doubt. I also think the Steelers kind of need it more. You know, they're the wounded animal we're a little bit right now, and usually they bounce back pretty strong in those situations. Like, I don't think this is the beginning of the end of the Steelers season. You know, like they're just going to wash right down the drain these last 3 games, including the playoffs. I don't see it going that way. And be a nice Christmas present.
Yeah.
You know?
And we'll be talking about a meaningful game going into Week 18 against the Bengals at home.
Mm-hmm.
While we're on that subject, let's make a pick in the Houston-Baltimore game. What do you think happens there?
I still think Baltimore wins, even though I don't love the road teams in this situation at all. Man, both these teams have Week 13 byes. And on my other podcasts, I said over and over, I think these two teams figure it out with that late bye. I think I'm half right. And it's the away team in this one.
I thought that the Texans had figured some things out, and then Tank Dell got hurt.
I think that was.
I think that was such an emotional situation for them. They were right. Dell's touchdown put them ahead in that game, and then it just went. It was like not another injury.
He's like Stroud's best friend.
Yeah,
he had a brutal injury last year about this time. Had the rehab like crazy. Gets shot in the meantime.
Yeah.
And then finally is starting to look like himself.
So how you been lately?
Yeah,
well,
right.
Last year I broke my leg, I got shot, and now I tore off my leg completely off.
And didn't look like himself really until about this week or so.
I mean, it was a heck of a touchdown catch.
And he made the catch.
I couldn't believe he held on to that ball.
Yeah, that's a big blow to them for sure.
Oh, without a doubt. That's why that's why they made the decision to acquire Deontay Johnson. They claimed Deontay Johnson.
Yeah. Because he'd already lost Diggs. I mean, people forget about that. That was a long time ago.
I mean, that's
how they're
desperation.
Structured. It is. I think the Ravens are just good enough to give it to Henry and win this game.
Yeah.
And I think their defense figured some things out. I think Baltimore's quite good.
I just worry on the Baltimore side of things about a letdown.
Mm-hmm.
Again, they're on a short work week, traveling.
On the road, Christmas
They
Day.
just beat the Steelers for the first time since Christ was on the cross, and it just screams letdown. If you look at the records over the years, their post Steelers record is under 500.
It's much worse than the Steelers.
It's worse than the Steelers,
right? Yeah.
And so I worry about that with them, but I just think that Houston's too beaten up right now too.
Mm-hmm. Some of the real nerdy people that dig into the film couldn't speak worse about the Texans scheme. And their offensive coordinator was up for head coaching jobs, and the hot candidate, he should get fired. And I heard this the other day too. I just happened to listen to a deep dive on the Texans, and it was very convincing. They have 4 offensive line coaches. They're one of these. They're one of these teams with like a million coaches, and they have 4 offensive line coaches, assistant to the assistant O-line coach. What are you doing?
Is George Costanza one of them?
Right,
assistant
they might be,
to the
right.
assistant general manager.
And all their linemen are having their worst year in the league and can't block a soul. And poor Stroud is losing confidence left and right.
Maybe they changed the uniforms to cotton.
So I don't like where the Texans are at all.
I don't either.
Yeah.
If they had if that Tank Dell injury wouldn't have happened, I may have picked them in this game.
Just like 4 days ago.
I think
right.
It's almost like the Shazier injury.
Yeah.
To a degree, when you think about the reaction. Now the Shazier
linger through the building.
The Shazier injury was way worse.
Of course.
Way worse.
We're not saying it's apples to apples.
Right? But the mental, I just remember.
coming to work the next day is not fun, or it lingers for a year.
And the reactions were similar. Like, it's tough to come back from that. It really is.
I mean, that's like one of the most popular dudes on the team has gone through a lot in the last 365 days or whatever.
I mean, the dude got shot and came back from that to play this season, and it's just such an emotional roller
Stinks
coaster.
Bad. Right.
Yeah, so that's what I expect to happen. And so those Week 18 games will be meaningful.
Oh, yeah. No, I like the Ravens in that one. I don't know who's even favored.
I think Baltimore is favored.
Probably by a few, like under a touchdown or under a field goal maybe.
It might be like around 4 or something like that.
Okay.
But, yeah.
No, I think Baltimore has figured some things out, though.
Yeah.
They're not blowing coverages as much and stuff like that, too.
Yeah. So, anyways.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas, everyone. Happy Hanukkah, all that good stuff. We hope everybody, Festivus, whatever you celebrate, Kwanzaa.
Right.
We're all inclusive here on the drive. But we will be back on Thursday to break down what Matt and I both believe will be a Steelers victory. We'll see if that is the case. Again, tomorrow you can hear us both on the pregame show, and I'll be on the pre-pregame show, all that good stuff. But I hope you enjoy your Christmas Eve and your Christmas Day. Enjoy watching the Steeler game, and then, of course, the Ravens and Texans to follow that.
Maybe you mix in some family.
Yeah, absolutely. You can try to do that. But
or don't.
Yeah, or don't. Yeah, maybe you don't like your family. But for my partner, Matt Williamson, for Justin Miller here on site, running the Justin Miller hotline, we'd also like to thank Rob King for dropping by on Christmas Eve, and for Tyler Vittmeyer, making sure our video gets out there onto YouTube. I am Dale Lolley. We thank you for listening to this edition of The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network.
Steelers football happens here. The Pittsburgh Steelers Audio Network.